This is a reading, UUA 2024 Business Resolution. On behalf of the member congregations and communities of the UUA, we proclaim our principles and values, unequivocally commit our faith to honor and celebrate the full spectrum of gender identity and expression. Being transgender or identifying with any gender other than the one assigned at birth is a beautiful and divine manifestation of humanity, as is being intersex or having sex characteristics that vary from what is considered typical. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm the inherent worthiness and dignity of each person as a core principle. The ability to live ever more authentically as one's true self is central to a lifelong journey towards spiritual fulfillment. As a people who put love at the center of our faith, that love calls us to fully embrace equity for transgender, non-binary, intersex, and gender diverse people in our congregations and the wider world. For generations, Unitarian Universalism has advocated for equity for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex people, LGBTQI+, and gender equity. As our scientific and sociological understanding of gender have evolved, our faith too has expanded our commitments to explicitly include the spectrum of gender expressions and identities as an integral aspect of our frameworks for freedom and flourishing. The imperative to care for those most at risk, especially due to systems of injustice, is one of our defining religious commitments throughout our UUU history. These systems imperil the basic human right to experience freedom from discrimination in all areas of life, including health care, education, housing, employment, free expression, sports, and beyond. Securing these rights for LGBTQI+ people and communities whose rights are now at risk is essential for their lifelong development and thriving. Not only has our nation failed to enact federal legislation clarifying protections for queer communities, but hundreds of new oppressive laws and policies across dozens of states and countries are now targeting transgender people across their lifespans. These policies are aimed to perpetuate the patriarchal status quo, to control and deny the bodily autonomy of transgender and non-binary people, intersex people, and cisgender women, which threatens that status quo, and to erase queer, transgender, and gender diverse people from existence. We recommit ourselves as a people of faith to resisting these despicable policies and to advocating for basic human rights where they are most endangered.
In 2023, a 9-year-old girl in Kelowna, British Columbia, showed up for her track and field meet at the local stadium. The girl's two mothers, Heidi and Carrie, watched proudly from the bleachers as their daughter began competing in the shot put event. Earlier that day, she had competed in the discus event and came in second place. When the girls stepped up to compete in the final event, a grandfather of another athlete started yelling at her. "Hey, this is supposed to be a girls' event. Why are you letting boys compete?" he exclaimed from the crowd. The man continued, "Get that boy off the field," and called for her disqualification from the event. Many of the other participants and parents asked the man to stop, but he was relentless, saying he wasn't going anywhere because his granddaughter was competing. And since there were no security officials at the event, one of the girls' mothers urged the organizers to remove the man for being so disruptive and disrespectful. During the altercation, the man's wife, accused Heidi, the girl's parent, of being a genital mutilator, a groomer, and a pedophile, all terms that are being promulgated by the far right in its hateful rhetoric against LGBTQ people. And this includes then Press Secretary, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis, who had tweeted a year earlier that anyone who was opposed to the state's Don't Say Gay bill was probably a groomer. Heidi reiterated to the man in the stadium that her daughter is cisgender, assigned female at birth, and uses she, her pronouns. She also happened to have a pixie haircut, which she got a few months earlier. Still, the man persisted and demanded proof in the form of certification that her daughter was indeed assigned female at birth. He also pointed at another girl on the team with short hair and said, well, if she's not a boy, then she's obviously trans. Heidi and Carrie's daughter felt devastated because people had mistaken her for a boy in the past, but no one had ever taken it this far. Her first 2 throws weren't very good because she was crying. After the team moved to another field to get away from the man, there were a lot of bystanders to support her and make her feel more confident and safer, so she was able to make a better final throw. Staff finally intervened, and the man was banned from all future events in the school district. And after the incident, the constable of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police said, "It is important to our community to speak out against discriminatory behaviors, and research shows that social support is an important protective factor for those experiencing marginalization, racism, and discrimination." An expert on trans history and culture explains, when marginalized groups gain more visibility, it tends to provoke fear and anger among majority groups who often feel they have lost something when someone else gains something. When politicians fan the flames of moral panic, people suffer, children and adults. There would have been a slide of Caster Semenya, a South African cisgender woman. She was subjected to sex verification tests after winning a gold medal in the 2009 World Athletics Championship. I can? Oh, I didn't think it was working. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, there are the love letters. And you, wait, go back. See these postcards? Those are ours. And these green ones, those are ours too. Okay, next, there's a blank. Yep, there's Castor. In 2019, World Athletics adopted new rules that required Semenya to take medication to suppress her naturally occurring high levels of testosterone. Semenya refused to undergo treatment and sued the organization for discrimination. In the 2020 Olympics, 6 African runners were disqualified from their events because of their naturally occurring testosterone levels and questionable appearance, which did not meet the eligibility requirements. Trans women have been competing in women's sports for decades. The earliest was in 2004, without incident or outrage. It's important to note that 1% to 2% of the US population, and fewer than, I don't even know how to say this, 0.001% of Olympians identify as trans. Contrary to popular claims, they do not dominate the world of women's sports. For example, as we heard in the children's story, trans tennis player Renee Richards lost to cisgender Martina Navratilova. Trans Canadian track cyclist Veronica Ivy is a two-time women's master champion. And trans weightlifter Laurel Hubbard competed in the Olympics but did not win any medals. In 2021, a study published in the Journal of Sports Medicine found that there is no scientific evidence to support policymakers' attempts to ban transgender women in sports. It is not the role of the federal government to regulate women's sports. There are plenty of regulatory bodies in the world of elite sports who are much more qualified to make these decisions. And by example, in November of 2021, the International Olympic Committee released its framework on fairness, inclusion, non-discrimination based on gender identity and sex variations. This framework was developed after a 2-year consultation process with over 250 athletes and stakeholders. In 2024, a study funded in part by the International Olympic Committee and published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine concluded that transgender women athletes may actually have several physical disadvantages when competing with cisgender women. For example, their study found that trans women underperform compared to cis women in lower body strength and lung capacity. Bone density and hemoglobin, both traits linked to muscle strength and athletic performance, are equal between trans and cis women. And according to the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport, there is no evidence trans women athletes have a biological advantage after 12 months of testosterone suppression. Despite all this evidence, policymakers continue to scapegoat trans women athletes. Yes. According to CNN, Leah Thomas, a swimmer for Penn University, became the first openly trans woman to win an NCAA Division I title. In 2025, when the current administration issued an executive order banning trans women athletes from participating in sports, the Department of Education asked the university to rectify its past harms to cis women athletes, or it would withdraw federal funding from the school. Even though the university was in compliance with NCAA policies when Leah won her title, the university was required to relinquish her title to her cis competitor with a written apology to the entire team for the harm done. Now let's compare that to Mark Phelps, shall we? Who, according to biography.com, is one of the most decorated athletes of all time. Phelps has many biological advantages that have won him the nickname Flying Fish. For instance, he has a long torso and short legs, not uncommon among competitive swimmers. But his wingspan is longer than his height. He has a hyper-jointed torso that enables him to thrust like a dolphin. He has double-jointed elbows and ankles and size 14 feet, which makes his feet work like flippers. He also produces low levels of lactic acid, which enhances his stamina. All these unique genetic differences gives Phelps an incredible advantage over other swimmers. He didn't lose his medals. Sorry, that snuck out. Yet he is lauded for these traits and not disqualified. Bans on trans athletes encourage bullying, discrimination, and even violence against women and girls. These bans can lead to invasive screenings that violate privacy and increase the risk of abuse that is already prevalent in this field. According to EGAL, a leading national human rights organization in Canada, bans on trans athletes has profound implications that extend well beyond the realm of sports to influence the broader exclusion of trans people in society. And herein lies the crux of the matter. In their book, Let Us Play, authors Harrison and Rachel Brown claim the high visibility of trans women disrupts the patriarchal status quo that women are the weaker sex. In a 2025 article in The Guardian, Bonnie Tsui writes, "A muscular woman has historically been a difficult woman. May I continue to be a difficult woman in my old age." The way we perceive beauty in the muscular form is influenced by many factors, not the least of which is gender, and it goes far beyond aesthetics. We'd go to the next one. Stunning. Too muscular can call into question one's identity as a woman. Are you a real woman if your muscles are bigger than the societal norm? Too muscular can also be accusatory. Are you a cheat, guilty of using steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs? Now, I was raised in the late 50s and 60s. And my mother always said, when I was stacking wood, lifting a heavy wheelbarrow, "Don't do that too much, you won't be able to have babies." Anybody else hear that? No, bless you, I am so glad it's not universal. So as I got older, I said, well, I'm not going to have children anyway, so I'm doing it. I used to do 50 push-ups every night in high school and 300 sit-ups. Every night. Couldn't sleep if I didn't do it. Pseudoscience has long governed norms around women's anatomy and biology, and by extension, their strength and power in society. Too muscular means too masculine. Like Shaw Carey Richardson, a track star, who identifies as bisexual and is accused of being trans. And then our beloved Serena Williams, a cisgender Serena Williams, who is constantly harassed for her muscular appearance and accused of being trans. If women are physically capable of protecting themselves, they become a threat to male dominance. Trans bans that deny bodily autonomy are an attempt to keep trans women invisible. Bans on trans athletes is not about sports, just like it was never about the water fountain during the Civil Rights era. May we love ourselves and one another into the fullest expression of our being. May it be so.